Hi, my name's Abi, and thank you for joining this webinar on good posture for confidence, visibility, and happiness within the workplace. Now, before I introduce myself and tell you a bit more about the work that I do, I'd like us all to try something. I'm assuming everyone who's watching this is sitting down, so I'd like to ask you to cross your legs if they're not already. Cross your arms, and then maybe take one of your hands and put them around your face if that feels comfortable for you. And then allow your gaze to drop down, allow your shoulders to come down so you're starting to slouch a bit in your chair. And just take a moment here and notice how you feel. And think about how others may perceive you when you're sat like this. Now I'd like you to take both your feet and plant them flat on the floor. Bring your hands and bring them onto your legs. Allow your shoulders to relax, to open up here. And look up. Breathe here. And just notice if you feel any different. But also think about, again, if someone were to look at you right now, how would they perceive you differently to the way you were sat before? Because what is it we're doing now? It's really simple. We're giving ourselves permission to own our space. And with that comes good posture. So as I said before, my name is Abi. I am a posture specialist and an Alexander Technique teacher, and I'm the founder of Inspiring Margot. What I do with my company is I go into different offices, different workspaces, and I work with people around understanding, having the knowledge and having the tools to have better posture within the workplace and to own their space more, because it's very easy for us to become smaller. And why do we do that? There's two main reasons why we do that. One of them in this day and age is technology. If we are always on the phone, and as an executive assistant, I know that that's what you're doing a lot of the time, it's really easy to become small with the phone, especially if there's a lot going on, you're feeling stressed at all. But it's the same with computers. We become smaller, and if we're doing that day in, day out, that's going to become a habit. But it's not only that. A huge amount of the work that I do is focused around women, because we make ourselves smaller from a very young age due to the society that's around us and the messages that we're given. You can see girls as young as the age of 6 who are starting to make themselves smaller, and it's this idea of being sweet and cute and being a good girl. And that is having this impact on our physicality, which we are then taking into our adult life. And it's hugely impacting our physical well-being, emotional well-being, and mental well-being. Because what are the benefits for having good posture? Immediately, you can breathe better. When we can breathe more, we're calmer, more focused, more present. It also means we're going to have a lot less aches and pains, and we'll be a lot less fatigued. It means that systems in our body, like our digestive system or our circulatory system, will all work so much better. We're not going to have so many issues with aches and pains in our joints, and we're not going to have as many issues with our backs, which so many of us do. And the list of benefits go on and on and on. But the main one that I want us to think about is that when we have better posture, we feel more confident. And when we feel more confident, people perceive that confidence, and therefore they have more confidence in us. Before I started my company, I was actually a personal assistant for 10 years, and I loved it. I love the people that I work for, I love the teams that I work for, I love the excitement and the pace of it. And I knew that I was good at it. I was a very organised person. I enjoyed always being one step ahead of the person that I was working for. And I also enjoyed looking after them. But I didn't have confidence in myself. I didn't have a confidence in who I was. And I felt that being a PA meant I had to almost be invisible. I almost had to make myself smaller and not be seen. But looking back, I realized that that isn't the case. We still need to be seen. As a PA, you are incredibly important in the running of an entire business. And I have massive respect for anyone who does this work. And I think it's so important for us, I say us, I'm not a PA anymore, for you, to have this confidence in yourself and to own your space and stand tall. So that's what I want to work on today. So after I left the PA world for 10 years, I did training I'd done numerous trainings while I was a PA in yoga, but then I trained as an Alexander technique teacher. This is a 3-year training all around posture, body mechanics, the musculoskeletal system, very in-depth training. And it was after that I really noticed a difference in my confidence, in my ability to stand tall and to stand up for what I believed in. So as we go into this webinar, the one habit that I want us to think about, because at the end of the day, when we don't have good posture, it's because habits are getting in the way. Physical habits that we've built up, that we've taken on throughout our life, that we still have. That's what's getting in the way of us having good posture. So there is this one habit of making ourselves smaller that I want to focus on today, because whether it's society's messages that have created that for us, or whether it's us always being on our Blackberries or iPhones, always being on a computer, whatever it may be, this making ourselves smaller is really, really impacting our posture and therefore our confidence. So if we're thinking about habit, how do we start to change a habit? So let me ask you to do this. Cross your arms. So that should be quite easy, I think, for most people. Now put your hands down. And now I'd like you to cross your arms the other way. Now on the whole, that's not usually quite so easy, because obviously the first time we crossed our arms, that was the way we habitually do it. But the second time is not how we normally do that. So what did you have to do differently the second time? We had to pause and we had to think so we could then do it the other way. And that's what we need to do to change a habit. We need to become aware of it. So if we're thinking about making ourselves smaller, become aware of the situations that you're in when you're making yourself smaller, the people that you're around and what's going on around you. And then take a moment to pause and then do something different. So we're pausing and we're thinking and we're doing something different. Okay, so what I would like to do now is I want to just move through some big areas of the body, just to think about how that area works, where it's connected within the body, and how knowing that, having that knowledge, can help us to have better posture. Excuse me. So I want us to start with the head. Now, normally if I'm in a workshop, I would have a massive pile of books that would be about 12 to 13 pounds worth, the weight. And I'd have everyone hold that, because that is the average weight of an adult's head. And it's so much heavier than you could imagine. So your homework, if you would like to do it, is when you leave the webinar and leave work today, is grab yourself a big bunch of books that might sort of be about this tall and try the weight of that. Or apparently the average weight of a cat is about 11 or 12 pounds. So if you've got a cat, pick your cat up. Or maybe like a 6-month-old baby. So if you just happen to have those things at home, pick those up and start to really become aware of just how heavy your head is. Because when you know that, you'll realise that if you're looking down a lot, so I take my phone again, if I'm looking down a lot on my phone, or for whatever reason, if I'm not feeling comfortable and I'm looking down, that weight means that it's not just my head that's looking down, the rest of my body is going to start following, because the weight is so much. So if you're always looking down, the shoulders are coming round, that's going to start to become a habit. And then you're going to start to look up, but your shoulders aren't going to come with you. So we really need to start to be aware of what we're doing with our head, and we need to look up. We need to look up because naturally that will start to help us to open up and to have better posture. But not only that, if you're walking into a meeting, if you're walking into a networking event, whatever it may be, if you're looking up and you can see everyone else in the room, it means they can see you. And that's what we want. We want to be seen. So find that cat, find that baby, or get that large pile of books. Realize just how heavy your head is, and then remind yourself to keep looking up. So if you're working on your phone a lot, I know it's not that easy. This is habits that we're wanting to change, but can you hold the phone up for a bit? Okay, and if it gets tiring for your arms, just take a break and look up, and then maybe come back to it and look up. Whatever it may be that helps just to remind you to come back to looking up and opening up across here and breathing again. And the other thing I want you to be aware of when it comes to your head is where your head, this big weight that we have, is balancing on the top of your spine. So if you were to take your fingers and point to where your head is balancing on the top of your spine, I always thought it was sort of around here, around sort of chin level, top of the neck at the back here. So take a moment to think about where you think it is. And then I want you to take your fingers, I want you to gently pop them in your ears, and then I want you to draw an imaginary line across from your finger, one finger to the other, and that is where the top of your spine is. So for many of us, it's a lot higher than we think it is. And if we were just a skeleton, if we opened our mouths, we could see our spine through here. It goes that high up. So I want you to try something now. Imagine that your spine finishes here, where your chin is, and I want you to nod your head from there. Okay, I now want you to put your fingers in your ears, find that lovely spot where your spine actually comes and where your head is joining to the spine, and then nod your head from there. And see if you notice a difference between the two. And it doesn't matter if you don't, but trust me when I tell you, I promise there is a difference. So what we're doing here is we're body mapping. We're becoming very aware of where certain areas and joints are in our body. And why do we do that? Because it's like a GPS system. So if we put the incorrect postcode into our sat-nav, it's going to take us a long time to get there and potentially be quite stressful. Whereas if we put the correct postcode in, we're going to get there quickly and easily. That's the same when our brain is telling some part of our body to move. So if we're saying I want to nod my head, but I'm thinking it's from around here, so that's where I'm nodding my head from. Or we say I want to nod my head and I know it's from here, so that's where I'm nodding my head from. It's going to involve a lot less muscle to do that. So if you're getting it in the right place, you know where you're nodding from, it is so much easier for your body. In the long run, you'll be less tired and you'll be using less muscle to do the work. So it's really empowering starting to get to know where these joints are, and it's really good for us. So this is the head, and I'm being very, very brief in this webinar. There's so many more amazing things I could talk to you about, but that's not for today. So what are we thinking? We know how heavy our head weighs now. We know where it is on the top of our spine, and we want to look up. It can feel uncomfortable because this is a bit easier, isn't it? We can shut people out, we can stay with our thoughts, we can do our own thing. That's not what we want. We want to be seen and we want to be heard. So we must look up and we will have better posture and we will be able to breathe more. Okay, so now we're going to move down and we're going to move down to our arms. So again, we're going to do a bit of body mapping here. So where do you imagine your arms start? For many years, I just assumed it was here. So if you put your hand here lift your arm from this area. So lift it up and lift it down. Okay, that's easy enough. But actually, what I want you to realize is this, the top of the arm that's coming in is the ball socket of the shoulder joint. And so what is it that's making the shoulder joint? It's you come along here, you've got your sternum, your clavicle, sorry, this is your sternum, your clavicle here, and then you've got your shoulder blade here, and both of those are coming together and they are making the cup, the socket, where your shoulder is coming in, the ball of the joint is coming in. So your arm doesn't start here, your arm starts here. So if you come along your clavicle, feel the way along there, and then get to this knobbly bit where it starts, where it connects with your sternum, and that's the sternoclavicular joint. And I want you to keep your hand there, and this time I want you to move your arm again, thinking you're moving it from there. Now you may even feel that your clavicle is moving now that you're moving your arm. And again, maybe it feels slightly easier to move your arm from here. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't notice that difference, but please do trust me, it is different. It is easier for you to do that. And then also, do you know what else this does? Suddenly we have these incredibly long arms. And that's amazing. We're not like a Lego figure that's we've just popped these shoulders in and off we go. Actually, the arms start here. They start where the shoulder blades are. So when we're moving them from there, we have much more ease with that movement, and we have these incredibly, incredibly long arms. And we're always doing lots with our arms, whether that's writing, whether that's on the computer, whether that's on the phone, whether that's reaching out to cuddle someone, whatever it may be. Love having these long arms. And what else this can help with is becoming aware of our armpits. Now, people find this a bit strange, but I ask you to start to fall in love with your armpits. That nobody really likes their armpits, and I totally appreciate why, but the armpit is an incredible area of our body. So not only is there a lot going on there physically and biologically that's so important for us and so healthy for us, but also it's an area of our body that we show when we're feeling happy. So if we're dancing, we've got our arms up in the air, we're showing our armpits. If we're reaching someone to give them a hug, we're showing them our armpits. Or maybe a loved one is coming in and nestling into your armpit here. So it's a very emotional place. And we lose it when we make ourselves smaller. Because we make ourselves smaller, we do this. And we become tight. And we lose that. And the biggest impact that's going to have on you, have on all of us, is if we're losing it, we cannot breathe properly. Because if I'm holding myself like this, then my ribs can't move. So if my ribs can't move, then when my lungs are inhaling, they cannot fully inhale. So if I'm doing this, I can't fully breathe. And when we can't fully breathe, we are going to feel more anxious. We're not going to be as present, and we're going to be more likely to go up into our heads and into our thought patterns. So I would like you to take your hands, and I want you to put them right under your armpits. You've got your thumb at the front. So there's two ways you can do this, like this. Or if that isn't as comfortable, you can put your thumbs under and your hands in front. Either way, you're getting right into that armpit. And then you're softening your shoulders. Let your shoulders melt over your hands. And I want you to breathe into your hands, or if you've got your thumbs under your armpits, breathe into your thumbs. And think of the space that you're creating there. Not only are you creating space to breathe, but you're allowing your shoulders to release into their full width, so you're beginning to own your space more. And then slowly release the hands down. And what you usually find is you can still feel that space there. This one's a really big one. Loving your armpits. Appreciating how beautifully long your arms are. Allowing for that space in your armpits and letting yourself breathe. Okay, great. Now we're moving further down the body, and I want us to find our sitting bones. So I'm just going to push back so hopefully you can see me a bit more. And what I want you to do is I want you to take your hands, palms down, and put them on your chair, and then sit on your hands. Wiggle around as much as you can, wiggle, 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 until you find your sitting bones. They are the knobbly bone that's there. So you may have to wiggle quite a lot. On the whole, we've all got squishy chairs, so we can't feel them for ourselves. So wiggle around on your hands, and then hopefully you can feel them. And then you can take your hands away. Why is it important to know where our sitting bones are? Aside from the fact that we're talking about body mapping, we're empowering ourselves by knowing more about our body. But not only that, when we are sat down, finding your sitting bones is like finding your feet. You're going to feel so much more grounded. So even if you're in a meeting where it's the sort of chairs where it's cushioned, so you can't feel it, now you have an idea of where they are. So think about where they are, think about finding them, and you will be more supported then. And so naturally, you'll have better posture. But not only that, you will, like I said, feel more grounded. That leads to feeling more confident. And it also leads, when we're feeling more grounded down, it leads to our breathing dropping down more. So we're breathing deeper. So we're calmer and we're more present. So it's really important to know where our sitting bones are. And you can become aware then, when you come off them, you sit back, you come off, so you're off balance here because we're not on our sitting bones, we're not on our feet. And when we roll forward again, we are rolling off them, so we're off balance. And we're having to use more muscle here to keep ourselves in balance when we're off that support. So we're coming back and we're finding our sitting bones. We're finding our feet. And of course, it's great when you're sat to have both feet on the floor, but I'm going to come to that in a moment. Now, the other thing to think about when we're sitting, and I like to think about this, especially if we're in meetings. So many of you will have heard of the Lean In movement by Sheryl Sandberg. And it's all around helping women to be a part of businesses. So be a part of the boardroom, be at the table, which is what all of us are doing, men and women, and PA or not. And what I like to think about is this idea of leaning in. Of course, because I'm very physically motivated, I think about how do we physically lean in? And there are two ways that we can do it. And I'm going to go through both of them with you, and then you can decide which one you prefer. So, for something that's really good to know in this moment is we do not biologically have waists. Waists or the term waist was created by the fashion industry. So the waist is not somewhere, it's not a joint. That's part of our spine. Yes, our spine is incredibly movable and it's very strong. But this waist here, that's not a joint. So for what many of us do is we come to lean in, and we will lean in from our waist. So if I come back slightly, just so you can see my waist, we're going to lean in from our waist. And immediately you can see what happens here. I'm going to lose my posture and I'm going to make myself smaller. And what are we doing? If we're moving from the spine here all the time, where it's not a joint, we are going to have pain. We are going to potentially damage ourselves. So that's one way that we can lean in. The other way that we can lean in is we can learn where our sitting bones are, which we've done, and then we can learn where our hip joints are. So for many of us, and for me, for the years that I did yoga, they'd always say, right, now put your hands on your hips. Well, that is not your hips, that's your pelvis. So if you want to find your hips, I'd like you to take your fingers and put them in the middle of your knee, put them in the middle of both knees, and then I want you to draw a line up your leg, and then you're going to come here. You're going to come to the bit where your leg and your torso meet, and I want you to take your fingers, I want you to point them backwards towards where your sitting bones were. Now, all of us are different sizes, but if you go in a couple of inches from where your fingers are, 2 or 3 inches, it's about there that you're going to find your hip joints. So they are much, much deeper, much further in than we think they are. So I want you to keep your fingers there, and I just want you to rock back and forward and think, okay, this is a really big joint. This is what it's made to do. And this is how I can lean back and lean forward. And you're also rocking now on your sitting bones. Okay? And then what's the difference? If I'm talking to you in a meeting and I'm trying to get a point across and I lean in like this, you keep your integrity. You keep your posture. You can breathe. And it's completely different. You're not making yourself smaller. You're leaning in to get something across and you're still owning your space. So that's something that's really helpful to be aware of in meetings or whenever you're trying to get something across. Or it could be just leaning into your computer, whatever it may be. Great, so now we're going to move further down and we're going to move to our feet. So if you could put your feet flat on the floor, I just want you to be aware of when you are standing up, where do you normally have your feet? Like do you normally sit into one hip? Or if you've got both feet on the floor, are they the weight on the outside of the feet or on the inside? Maybe the weight's forward, maybe the weight's back. It's really interesting, so you may not be able to stand up now, but next time you're standing up, and preferably without high heels on, just to notice what your habitual way of standing is on your feet. In an ideal world, where we had no habits and we were like a toddler with perfect posture, how it works with the feet, and I'm just going to grab my skeleton's feet here, is that it's like a tripod, the weight. So you'd have 50% on the ball of your foot, you'd have 25% on the soft bit behind your big toe, and 25% on the soft bit behind your baby toe. So you've got this tripod here, and that's how the weight would naturally distribute itself. But we don't have to get all to that. We don't need to do that. It's just great to be aware of that. But the key here is to be aware of what your habit is when you're standing. Because to stand with both feet planted on the floor is going to make such a difference. It means you're going to feel immediately more grounded. You will be supporting the rest of your body in a much better way, and therefore naturally you'll have better posture. And just like when we were sitting, if you're grounding down, your breathing is going to start to drop down. So you're going to feel calmer. Excuse me. You're going to be more present, and you are going to feel more confident. And you really are going to be owning your space. We don't need to be crossing our legs when we're in a situation where we want to be seen, where we want to feel that we have this visibility. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that you can't ever cross your legs. I cross my legs. I would be like breaking a habit of a lifetime. But I'm aware when I'm doing it. So I'm aware that I'm crossing my legs, okay, but I'm not necessarily in a situation where I need to have a lot of confidence or I really want to be taken seriously. Also, I'm going to take a break from that. Just like if you're on your phone a lot and you take a break to look up, I'm going to take a break and allow both feet on the floor. And then I'm going to try crossing my legs the other way, just to give my body a bit of a change in rotation. But if we can, the more we can have both feet on the floor, the better. And if you are someone that wears high heels a lot, when you can, get back to bare feet or to no shoes and socks, whatever's comfortable for you, to get both feet on the floor. We really don't give our feet the credit that they deserve, considering how much we're on them, and how allowing them to release into the floor is going to have a huge impact on how we own our space. Now, with a lot of this work, when we are trying to change a habit, when we are trying to do something different, it is going to feel uncomfortable. Because what are we doing? If something's a habit, it's our comfort zone. So when we're trying to change that habit, we're going out of our comfort zone. So if it feels uncomfortable, brilliant. That's what you want. Stay in that for a bit. Stay uncomfortable. And then when you really need to go back into what you know. But allow yourself to stay in the uncomfortable place for as much as you can, just to allow your body to start to get used to it. So I hope those going through those areas of the body have helped you. Like I said, this is very brief, but it's all really important. You know, we're looking up, we love our armpits, and we're grounding down, whether it's through our sitting bones or through our feet. Because every single one of us deserves to own our space. We deserve to be seen, and we deserve to be heard in whatever situation that we're in, whether it's at work or it's at home, whatever it may be. So I would love to leave you with one other thought, and that is, if you are entering into a room and maybe it's a big meeting or a big networking event and you're not feeling very comfortable, then what you need to do is you need to find your walk in the room theme tune. So everyone has that song that when they listen to it, they feel amazing and they just want to sing along really loudly. It may be something you listen to when you're running or exercising, or you're just dancing, you hear it in the nightclub and you go crazy. Whatever it may be, find what that song is for you and listen to it. Whether you listen to it with headphones or whether you listen to it, you can sing it to yourself and have that song in your head when you walk into that room. And I promise you, it will make such a difference to how those people perceive you. Because we make judgments on people in the first 7 seconds of seeing them. So we don't have time to introduce ourselves or say anything. All we have time is to be physically present. So find your walk in the room theme tune. Okay, great. If I did have more time, I would love to go into more depth with you, but also go into the aspects of our habits that we have in our mindset. But that is for another time. If you would like to carry on this work, there's a couple of things I would suggest. You could look for an Alexander Technique teacher in your area. That's easy enough. You could Google that. But I think what's important to know is, like with anything that you're doing one-to-one with someone, you need to find the right person for you. So maybe that person is in your area, maybe not, but look into it and go to the lesson and speak to them about what it is you really want to get from the work, as opposed to what they might think you need. For some of you, it may just be if you want to open up more and you want to be more physically in your body, something like yoga or Pilates could be helpful for you. And for many people, it's running. So whatever it may be, it's just getting back into your body. I also offer a one-to-one posture coaching. So you're more than welcome to get in touch with me, because I do that either one-to-one, face-to-face, or over Skype. And I'm constantly running workshops and trainings in London, so you're more than welcome to join those. You should have my information along with this webinar. My email address is simply Abi, A-B-I, at inspiringmargot.com, and Margot is spelt M-A-R-G-O-T, and my website is inspiringmargot.com. To finish off, the reason my company is called Inspiring Margot is because on International Women's Day 2017, I had a baby girl called Margot. And that is when I took this work that I've been doing for years anyway and focused it around girls and women, because we need to be seen more and we need to be heard more. And as women, we're actually the role models for the next generation. So I want everyone to own their space and to stand tall so they can inspire my daughter Margot. Okay, thank you for your time. I hope you found this helpful, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Okay, bye.